Again, thank you for coming to True Health Diagnostics webinar on whole food nutrition. So again, we are a company that's empowering health through insight. And we are excited to be able to offer these free webinars to you as one of our services. My name is Jody Drange. I am a dietitian, certified diabetes educator, as well as an exercise physiologist. I am your host for tonight, as well as your presenter. So just a couple housekeeping things. Over on the right-hand side of your screen, you will have your control panel. And in there is a chat section, or a question section. So if you have questions or have any comments throughout the presentation tonight, go ahead and please fill those in. Since I'm the moderator as well as a presenter, I will go ahead and leave time at the very end in order to answer those questions, as it will be a little bit challenging to try to fill them throughout the presentation. So again, make sure that you do write down any questions that you have, and they will for surely be answered at the end. So let's go ahead and get started in today's presentation, again on whole food nutrition. So today what we're going to talk about is whole foods versus processed foods. Again, we'll kind of identify and define what each one of those mean. We'll talk about the health benefits of whole foods, and then lastly, kind of how to shop for whole foods. How do we buy it in season, or how can we even grow it or maybe learn to grow it in order to keep our food as pure as it can be in order to really benefit and nourish our bodies. So the first section, again, here we're going to do whole foods versus processed foods. So whole food, we define as having nothing added to it, nothing taken away from it. It's still in its natural shape and size as it is found, and then has a short ingredient list of 1 to 5 ingredients. So this picture on the side is actually a picture of a card that my friend got me for my birthday to eat more whole foods. So again, we have to watch the spelling of the whole foods, as well as, again, making sure that we really are reading those labels instead of even taking advertising kind of telling us, or that marketing telling us if this food is a whole food or not. A processed food has been altered in shape and size. Typically is going to have something added to it. So again, that could be fat, sugar, colors, and dyes. Part of its original structure has been removed. So think about wheat flour versus whole wheat flour. Again, kind of taking that original structure and starting to remove part of it. It does not look like it looked in nature, and then again, that ingredient list is going to be really important. So we're going to come back and kind of review how to read that ingredient list, and again, why it'll be so important to look at. So additives are added to processed foods, and this can be chemicals, food dyes, salt, sugar, fat. Those are very common. And again, one of the main ones, especially when it comes to fat, that we want to avoid is anything that's trans fat, so hydrogenated oils. So again, that's something that we're going to start looking for on those labels to try and pull them out as a diet as much as possible. That is the recommendation by the American Heart Association, is to have as minimal intake of trans fat as possible. So which food is whole versus processed? So we're just going to kind of compare a couple. So here on the left side, we see the actual ear of corn, and then on the right-hand side, we see the corn tortilla chip. So even if we start looking at labels, we might see with a decent corn chip that there might be 5 ingredients or less, or probably around 5, I think is what I've seen as the minimum. Again, when we compare that to an ear of corn, we definitely start to see that it's processed. So even though maybe it's better than another type of chip that has more colors and dyes and additives and things like that to it, and the list might get up to 20, 25 in that ingredient list. The corn chip is simpler, but again, ultimately at the end of the day, it's still processed. So those are things that we're going to want to keep in mind. On the picture on the second row, again, on the right-hand side, it's hard to tell, but those are those candy raspberries. They look so similar to those fresh raspberries we have here on the right. But again, just the high sugar processed food not found in nature. And so again, those are the things we're going to continue to want to avoid. So again, looking at whole foods, and so even you know, a lot of these juices talk about how they're 100% juice, but again, this is where, you know, even if that ingredient list is short, we're still looking that it's not in the shape and the size that it was found in nature. And because of that, we start to see certain components, especially like fiber, when we talk about fruit versus fruit juice, that is no longer going to be present, and that can start to affect your health. So again, even though it says real juice, 100% juice, again, it still is not in its natural form, let alone, again, there might be some other, especially like in the Scooby snacks over here, some added colors, and again, probably additional added sugar in there. So again, just continuing to read the labels and keeping in mind, you know, again, does it look as it would in nature? So here again, we're going to look at a nutrition ingredient list for Apple Jacks. So typically more of a kid's cereal, but definitely have some adults that still like these. And so again, kind of that marketing of Apple Jacks. So we would think, gosh, you know, there must be apples in here and lots of them. But when we look at that ingredient list, how it's read is that the first thing listed is what is the most prevalent in that food. So there's more, in this instance, more sugar than actually corn flour. And so even though we start to go down and we start to see wheat flour, whole grain oat flour, we're still not getting to to apples. We start to see vegetable oil, hydrogenated, coconut, soybean, or cotton, partially hydrogenated. So there's that trans fat that we were talking about. And then finally, we start to get to the apple and the apple juice concentrate. So again, making sure that we're turning those products around and really looking at the ingredients. Because again, you know, many of us would not think that the number one ingredient would be sugar in a product like this. So just continuing to be mindful of that. Moving on to the health benefits of eating whole foods. So they can include having a healthy weight, you know, again, whether that's a healthy weight loss or healthy weight maintenance. It can lower your cholesterol and your blood pressure, again, by the fats and the fiber that are in those foods. And then it can protect you from disease and actually improve absorption, because we tend to get vitamins and minerals more readily available, more easily absorbed from whole plant foods. And then again, the combination of eating them together acts synergistically. So again, together to help protect us from things such as type 2 diabetes, multiple types of cancer, heart disease, or even possibly having a stroke. So whole foods can help you maintain a weight, and that's because they are nutrient rich. So again, they're kind of feeding the body. They're full of those essential vitamins and minerals that fuel your body, especially at that cellular level. And they're high in fiber to keep you full. So the picture that we have here is of two different plates, but the same amount of calories. So number one that I talk with my patients about a lot is really having good quality food. You know, making those calories count for you and work for you. So on the right-hand side here, we see half a hamburger and some French fries from fast food, versus on the left-hand side here, we see this nice, you know, very colorful salad along with a turkey burger and then some fruit on the side. So again, the quantity, because of the quality of the food, is much larger, again, when we start to take a look at whole foods versus processed foods. And so this is sometimes why people tend to gain weight really quickly, because again, when we're trying to be mindful of having that healthy lifestyle, we tend to add those vegetables and fruit and lean proteins. But then again, when we start to get away from that and look for convenience sometimes, then we start to get these high calorie options. And, you know, not many people eat just half of a hamburger, nor just, you know, 15 fries. So again, to eat that whole meal would at least be doubled, and then if we added a soda on top of that. So again, being really mindful of the quality of the food is definitely important for overall health, but then also for that weight maintenance or weight loss. So whole foods can impact your cholesterol. They can reduce that LDL cholesterol, your ApoB, LDLP, small dense LDL particles. And again, this is some of the advanced testing that we do here at True Health Diagnostics. It can increase your cholesterol in your HDL, which again has been defined in the past as a healthy cholesterol. And then the HDL2 is looking at the quality of your particles. The other things whole foods can do is decrease inflammation, CRP or HSCRP, you'll see it on our test. And again, that goes back to the vitamins and the minerals, again, acting synergistically or together in order to become antioxidants and help decrease inflammation. Whole foods, again, lower in saturated fat, which again, on our test, we do some genetic testing. And again, kind of based upon your genetics, you might be more susceptible to the effects of saturated fat. So again, eating more whole foods can kind of eliminate that. Again, whole foods are not going to contain or very minimal trans fat, and that might be in some of the animal proteins. But again, naturally found in nature, again, versus something that the industry has made to make their food shelf stable. So again, hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, fully hydrogenated oils, again, trying to keep those out of your food intake. So being high in soluble and insoluble fiber, so some of that is to help make sure that your food is moving through your GI tract, keeping it nice and clean and regulated. The other part of it is continuing to take cholesterol that we may intake through our food and encapsulating that and really trying to remove it. Being low in additives and salts, chemicals, food colorings, all of those things are going to be eliminated or very minimal due to, again, going back and having whole foods in the diet. Whole foods, again, are going to affect your blood sugars. So having a diet that is low in simple sugars or simple carbohydrates, again, can decrease those levels of your LDL particle, your LDLP, especially the small dense LDL. So again, that SD-LDL, which again, having those particles and lots of them continues to be pro-atherogenic, which again is really looking at inflammation of your arteries and the buildup and the potential to have an incident of heart attack or possibly stroke. So here's just an example of a test where it's showing that there's increased risk in the particle count and the size, and also some insulin resistance. So again, your typical lipid profile, it just shows that there's just a little bump in your LDL-C. And again, if we're not looking at the bigger picture, again, we're kind of saying, okay, you know what, it's not too bad, come back in 6 months to a year and we'll kind of retest. But when we start to get into those advanced particles, we start to see that there really is risk. We do have a high particle count. We do have a high amount of small, dense particles. And again, those are going to increase risk. We see that with our LDLP, those good quality particles, we don't have a lot of them. So again, this is really showing where we're having that increased risk. And also, these are starting to show us that there's possibly some insulin resistance going on. So whole foods can reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. And just on a little side note, insulin resistance really is starting to show us that the body is not quite clearing your glucose or that blood sugar quick enough. And so it's kind of starting to hang around a little bit longer. And when it does, then it kind of starts to cause some issues. Whole foods can, again, keep those blood sugar levels or blood glucose levels more consistent. And this can in turn help you to decrease your A1C, where sometimes you'll see like an HbA1c, so for hemoglobin A1c. And so what that test shows us is kind of the 90-day check of how you've been managing your blood sugars, so for the last 90 days or 3 months. Fiber-rich foods help to prevent spikes in the blood sugar. So again, that we're just a little bit more even keeled throughout the day. And then again, they're going to be low in simple sugars and carbohydrates because again, those are what are going to specifically be spiking those blood sugars or blood glucose levels. So here we have insulin resistance when the hemoglobin A1C or that the HbA1c. If we look down into the last box that says metabolic on it, we see insulin is at 47, free fatty acid 0.86. Those are both in red. But then when we start to look below that, we see glucose just at 103. And again, this shows that there's a slight elevation in our glucose at the exact moment that they took our blood. And the HbA1c, that hemoglobin A1c, is at 5.8. So with these ranges that are set here, that shows that it's an optimal. So we can see how, you know, with kind of having the standard test, we don't show that there's a whole lot of risk, but then we do some advanced testing, we see the insulin and free fatty acid is coming up, and that's again where we start to see that insulin resistance. And the whole point of doing the advanced testing is again to be able to identify it sooner so that we can continue to change our behaviors, maybe change how we're managing it to decrease the potential of actually falling into pre-diabetic or even diabetic ranges. So let's talk about shopping for whole foods. So how do we find them? Where are they at? How do we make it easy? So a couple different things. So one is you can definitely buy seasonal food directly from your area by finding a local farmer's market. And so there's a website listed here, the USDA Farmers Market Search. Again, you can put in your zip code and start to narrow down the farmers markets that are in your areas. I'm from a really small town in Minnesota originally, and in there they were just kind of little pop-up shops, you know, in different places throughout neighboring cities, again, where you could get fresh local produce. Down here now in Phoenix, there's probably a farmer's market that I could go to almost most days of the year. And again, probably year-round, even though it's super hot right now, they still do typically have them at night or maybe early in the morning. Again, being able to find that. The community-supported agriculture is CSA. Again, some of those you actually pick up at farmers markets that are locally. Some of them are at co-ops. Some of them might be at a parking lot for a church. And again, they'll kind of give you a general idea of what you're going to get in your box. But from there, they might give a little bit of recipes on how to maybe try some of these new vegetables that they're going to give you in your box. And these boxes could be, again, depending on the size and how that operation works, but they could be small for, you know, 2 people, and then they could be much larger. So sometimes it's about maybe splitting with another family. That could be just to help with the cost, to even help with less spoilage, again, making sure that all the product is getting used. And again, that's at www.localharvest.org. So let's kind of move into the grocery store. You might have heard this before, definitely wanting to walk around the perimeter. I will caution with that statement, not everything around the perimeter is healthy because the bakery section is there. So we're going to kind of skip over those cakes, cookies, donuts, and kind of stick to the rest of the perimeter. But again, mostly this is where all the whole foods are. And you're wanting to avoid the aisles as much as you can. So number one, making your grocery shopping list so that you know what you can get. And again, it helps you avoid kind of some of those add-ons that are at the end caps or right by the register. And it takes you, again, you know, to the outside of the store and more focused. And maybe your list includes 1 to 2 aisles. And again, being very focused when you go down those aisles to avoid kind of the extra purchases on those processed foods. So let's kind of look at some of those different sections of the store a little bit closer. So we're going to go through each of these groups, and we're going to have it kind of split into two. So one are Whole Foods, go for it. You know, there might be certain reasons that you might need to limit some of those foods. And again, that would be between you and your doctor, or you and your clinical health consultant based on your overall health. But again, these are the whole foods that we want you to really focus on. And that's going to be fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, frozen vegetables that don't have any sauces, frozen fruits, and then the unsalted raw nuts, whether it's in the shell or not. And again, these processed foods are that we're going to talk about, again, we'd like to avoid or really use them as sparingly as we can. Sometimes it's inevitable at a family function, on vacation, you know, somebody's birthday party. And again, so we just want to be really intentional as far as when these foods maybe come into the diet. So again, we want to watch those fruit or vegetable juices, fruits canned in heavy syrup, vegetables canned in high sodium or preservatives, fruit snacks, fruit roll-ups, kind of talked about that. Veggie chips, even though it's vegetable, probably one of the main ingredients is actually potato. So again, ultimately it's a potato chip. And then again, with the salt and seasoned nuts, again, we'd like that to be unsalted and raw. Going on to the next group, let me make sure I didn't skip. All right, so the next group here is just with meats, again, whole foods, the chicken, the pork, the turkey, the fish and shellfish, eggs, lean beef, and again, wanting to avoid those high fat cuts of meat, breaded and deep fried meats. Again, we're going to be dealing with the different types of fat, you know, the breading that's going to hold in that fat, and again, usually it's maybe not the best quality meat in general, along to bacon, sausage, hot dogs, deli meats. Again, trying to get some that don't have nitrates in it. Maybe that is just more smoked versus having the nitrates. And then the potted meats in the Spam that are identified as meat but are preserved on the shelf. So again, wanting to look at the labels and again, identify what foods, you know, that maybe we need to find some healthier alternatives for. And again, here's just an example. The pork loin is a nice example of whole food, where again, the processed food is going to be that hot dog. And then into the dairy group. So again, the whole food is going to be milk, plain yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, cheese, cottage cheese, and again, those processed foods, there's really anything ice cream based, whether it's in a bar or, you know, just getting out of the tub. Processed cheese, technically called food or cheese food, like Velveeta, things like that. Cheese Whiz, and then again, sweetened yogurts and parfaits, because they're just going to have so much added sugar in them that we're really going to want to watch that. And then here's the last category is the carbohydrates and the starches. So again, everything that we have here on the left-hand side is going to be one ingredient. So the oats, the bulgur, the popcorn, the quinoa, again, all have just one ingredient. And then when we start to look at the list over here on the right, this is where we start to see that ingredient list start to expand. And so even though we have cereal over here, it could be a whole grain cereal, but at the end of the day, it probably still has 7 to 10 ingredients. So again, trying to be really mindful how often we would have cereal, what type of cereal, because again, Apple Jacks is going to be very different than maybe Grape Nuts. But again, candy bars, granola bars, again, granola bars, some of the protein bars out there, again, reading those labels to be very intentional about what you're buying, because a lot of them can be as high in sugar as a candy bar. So again, you know, don't get fooled by the marketing, turn it around and make sure that we're making good choices. And so here we have sweets and sweet drinks. And again, 2 really good questions to ask yourself. If you're like, oh, I'm not sure, should I or should I not? Number 1, are these foods, what are these foods made out of? And then number 2, are they in their natural shape? And if the answer is no, then we probably, again, should be passing along. So even though it has, you know, maybe real fruit juice, or maybe it's made with you know, aged cheddar. Again, ultimately, at the end of the day, these foods are processed and, again, should be kept at a minimum. If not, again, eliminated altogether. So grow it to know it. So some of you might be very good at growing a garden or planting. I personally struggle with this, but I definitely keep trying every year to grow my own fruits and vegetables and herbs at home. But a couple of the links that I have here, I'm going to show you real quickly. The first one is Grow Your Own a Vegetable Garden kind of how-to guide. And so this is just from fruitsandveggiesmorematters.org. So you can go on there. It looks like a 3-step process on how you can, on how you can work to, you know, build that garden at home. And so, you know, part of it can be due to the area. I'm out here in Phoenix, so it just gets really difficult this time of the year, where the rest of my family back in Minnesota has these super plentiful gardens right now. I'm a little bit jealous about. And then the other one I wanted to show you was My True Health, and we have a blog. If you don't follow us, you definitely should. There's great articles on here, and this one is specifically talking about how to start composting to, again, improve the quality of your soil and the outcome of your garden. But check in your local city or county cooperative extensions. They have free classes, or they're usually relatively inexpensive, but you can learn how to can, freeze, and dry your produce to try to have it year-round. Maybe finding a master gardener in your area to kind of give you some tips. And then we also included a link here as far as national pesticide information, because, again, we're definitely wanting to watch that and making sure that the food that we're growing at home, again, is as clean as possible. So gardening programs are everywhere, from a community garden. Some churches have them, schools have them. There can be city gardens where, again, maybe you rent a small plot. And then I believe they also help to maybe tend it a little bit, which would be nice for a person like me who struggles. But then there's also the farm-to-table restaurants. So again, if we're needing to eat out, we can definitely work to find some local restaurants that, again, have that same mindset as you do. And then the farm-to-table schools. So again, check in your area, see what's available, and maybe how you can get plugged in. And then, so the next part that we're going to talk here is just, you know, putting your plate together. So ideally, we'd like for 50% of your plate to be filled with non-starchy vegetables. Again, these are the ones that are going to have lots of vitamins and minerals, have lots of fiber. So again, they're going to help to control your blood sugars better. They're low calories, so they're going to maintain or help you with weight loss. On that side of the plate, the other side of the plate in the yellow, we do have those starchy vegetables. I know we do have some pasta and bread there because they do fit into those groups, but again, ideally we want to keep these foods as whole as possible between fruit, quinoa, peas, different things like that, bulgur. And then moving down into that kind of blue section, again, this is where we're going to get lead proteins such as chicken, turkey, fish, eggs, all there. And then the little circle in the middle, we didn't hit on this a whole lot, but it's just talking about good quality fats in the diet. So the extra virgin olive oil, the grass-fed, excuse me, grass-fed butter, and then the other one there is peanut butter. And with the peanut butter, again, this is one of those where we definitely want to turn it around and look at our ingredient list, because on some of the kind of big brand names, there probably is over 5 ingredients in that, and one of them is probably partially or fully hydrogenated oils, and the other one is probably sugar. And so we can find some ones that are all natural, that are just peanuts or peanuts and salt, and those would be the ideal ones. So again, we're not swapping calories, but the quality of those calories, again, we're really trying to continue to work on. And again, that kind of goes back to that picture where we had that turkey burger and salad versus the burger and fries. Again, the quality really matters when you start to look at that. And so again, what would that plate look like? So here we have 50% of that plate with vegetables, might be a little bit of olive oil dressing for that healthy fat on that side. And then on the flip side, we do have that whole grain brown rice along with probably is chicken, but maybe a little bit of pork. I'm not sure which one that is. So again, this is how the plate should look most often. And so for recipes, your local cooperative extension, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, local edible magazines. Again, if you're in a smaller town, this might be something that we start to see in maybe kind of a bigger city. So again, I'm from Minnesota originally, and they're not going to have one for my small town as there's only 600 people. However, again, you know, looking at the Twin Cities, and again, still local to my state and have some good ideas. The other thing is blogs. So again, this is one. There are so many blogs out there. But being able to maybe work one-on-one with a clinical health consultant, or maybe your doctor has one that they really like, and again, can maybe steer you in the right direction to not be overwhelmed by all the different choices. And then speaking of a lot of choices, then we also have Pinterest. So again, a lot of those are coming from blogs or from different companies. So again, you know, being mindful of, you know, which ones do I kind of see popping up a lot, and which ones would I like. And again, maybe then I want to follow their blog, or maybe I want to subscribe to a newsletter where, you know, maybe I can get a new recipe once a week, or, you know, a couple times a month. And so this is where I'm going to kind of stop and pause for a second. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the question box. Again, over here on the right side of your screen. And as I'm kind of waiting for some of those questions to pop up, just want to make you guys aware again that we do want to be your resource for health-related topics. And so we do have social media outlets. We have Twitter, Facebook, and the blog that I showed you. Again, you can subscribe to that. So every time that we're getting posting, you're getting notified. If you're going to follow us on Facebook, making sure that you mark us as follow or to see first. And then again, anytime that we have a new recipe or kind of a healthy lifestyle tip, then you'll make sure that you are first to see that. And then again on Twitter, you know, we're interacting more real time there. And so we'd love for you to reach out to us there, or there's a couple of us that also do have our own Twitter account through Health Diagnostic Laboratories, and so you can continue to kind of, again, get in contact with us more in real time by utilizing some of those outlets. And then again, if we're wanting to personalize a plan for health, we can always set up an appointment with a True Health Diagnostics clinical health consultant. And so again, we work right alongside your doctor and what he's recommending, and helping you along with your lab work kind of identify where maybe risk areas are, areas where we can make some improvements to really fine-tune and personalize those recommendations for you, and to set goals, and then to keep you accountable. So here, this is a number for our client services department. And so you can give them a call, and they will help to steer in the right direction, get you the right day and time for your schedule to be set up again with a clinical health consultant. So again, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the question box. If you were just a little bit late and there was something that you wanted covered today, or you had questions about maybe a certain topic, again, feel free to put those into the question box, and I'd be happy to review maybe some of the information that was missed if you have questions on that. All right, so it doesn't look like we have too many questions coming in. And just remember that if you were just a little bit late to the presentation today, I know we're kind of ending a little bit earlier than normal. But if you were late, there will be a recording of this presentation, and that will be sent out tomorrow. And so you will be able to go back and go through the slides at your own pace and your own time to review any of the information. Again, if you do need to reach out to us with any questions, please do. We're happy to answer those as they come in as well. And that information will be on that email with the recording that you'll get tomorrow. So again, as long as there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and end our session today. But again, I want to thank you for coming to our webinar. We have more webinars coming up. And so we hope that you will partake in those. So keep in contact with our Twitter and Facebook account because we're always identifying what they are. If you work with a clinical health consultant, just go ahead and ask them to give you the flyer for the next quarter of free webinars. And again, that we hope to see you on another one in the future. And again, thank you and have a great rest of your day.